48.8 million, that's the number, of Americans who suffer from addiction. Yet very few who need the treatment receive it or believe that they need it. It is an issue that unfortunately has gotten worse over the years in this country. And as of last year, 40.7 million adults with a substance use disorder who did not receive treatment did not perceive that they needed it. Why is that? Well, there's still a stigma around addiction in this country after all these years. And yesterday, the President of the United States launched the Great American Recovery Initiative to address the addiction crisis. It was an executive order, and what it does is try to coordinate a national response to the disease of addiction across the government, healthcare, faith communities, and the private sector. The goal is an obvious one: save lives, restore families, and strengthen our communities, and build the great American recovery. It is one of the issues that, we've talked about here on the show, but even so has not gotten nearly enough national attention. That we've dealt with 100,000 overdose deaths, record numbers over the last few years. That's per year, by the way. And a lot of that increase, unfortunately, has been driven by fentanyl, which sometimes is laced in the drugs. People don't know about it. And then, they're doing something that, frankly, is not intended to kill them. And sadly, it does. But once again, if people are not participating in these illicit drugs, these issues would not happen with the fentanyl. Whether it's because of addiction or there's just a social play to it, it doesn't really matter. Everybody knows somebody who is dealing with the issue of addiction. And I'm not sitting here telling you that this executive order is going to magically just change the way that people deal with addiction in this country. But it's something that at a time when all the focus is on what divides us and all the issues that divide us, and there's going to be protests around Kansas City today. I mean, it's probably going to be 12 people in the cold, but still, there will be protests around Kansas City. There's like 4 businesses shutting down in solidarity against ICE. Like all that ridiculous, divisive stuff happening, which we've talked plenty about this morning. There's also things like this happening. And they don't get the attention because it's not sexy. It's not divisive at a time when being divisive can sell more than being uniting. But this is something that should unite all of us. And there was a huge, it wasn't a press conference, but it was a signing of this executive order yesterday in the Oval Office. And there was a moment for Steve Whitcoff, whose name you may know and you probably have heard before. He is the United States Special Envoy to the Middle East. He's been a friend of the President of the United States for a very long time. He's a successful real estate developer, investor, and founder of the Whitcoff Group. So he's been Trump's buddy for years. And Steve Whitcoff, who is in his late 60s, lost his son. He has 3 sons, had 3 sons, and he lost one of his sons to addiction about 15 years ago. And as he was speaking yesterday in the Oval Office about this executive order, he got choked up. And he shared a side of the President of the United States that, frankly, I wish we saw more of.
The President is doing the same thing to me now that he did to me in 2017. Do you remember, Catherine?
Yeah, we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to tell the story about this. So I came to the opioid conference, and the President did not know I was coming because I was invited by the First Lady. And he leaned over, saw me in the aisle, and he looked at me and he said, "Steve," and then he realized why I was there, because I had lost my son Andrew, and the President was an incredible friend when I lost him. I lived in his building at 502 Park Avenue, and I remember when him and the First Lady came, and I talked about this all the time. And so he took my hand, and he said to me, "Come on up to the stage and tell the world about your boy Andrew." And of course, that was, something that was really meaningful to me, and I got through it. And I talk about it all the time. I talked about it on the campaign trail and so forth. He is a very special man. And he's begun and led the fight against opioid addiction and alcoholism. And Catherine, I feel like we sort of bonded from that day. Mm-hmm. And it's just my blessing to work for you, sir.
He's a special guy.
All right.
That was Steve Whitcoff in the Oval Office yesterday talking about this executive order the president signed, the Great American Recovery Initiative to address addiction in the United States, which impacts nearly 50 million Americans. And the thing about addiction is that it doesn't know socioeconomic lines. It doesn't know demographic lines. It doesn't care about zip codes. It impacts the poorest of poor communities. It impacts the richest people in this country, like Steve Whitcoff, who lost his son to an Oxycontin overdose at a sober living facility in California. He was probably at the best of the best, and he lost his life. It is as relatable a thing as you can talk about in America. I mean, outside of sports, I feel like the only other thing that you could talk about with ease between racial groups, socioeconomic levels, is addiction, because everybody knows somebody. And if this executive order plays a small role in improving that, because it's not just the 75 to 100,000 people who lose their lives because of a drug overdose or a drug poisoning. It's the millions of people who get impacted by that. It's the millions of people who get impacted by somebody having an addiction. And if this creates more of a streamlined effort between the private sector, the government, healthcare, and faith communities, and helps bring even a small percentage of people out of their addiction, it's a massive win for America. Some of the details that the White House put out is that the order directs the initiative to recommend all necessary steps to coordinate the federal government's response to the addiction crisis, including by better aligning relevant federal programs, setting clear objectives, and providing data-driven updates to the public on progress towards meeting these objectives. They want to take appropriate actions to increase awareness of the disease of addiction, help Americans receive the treatment that they need, and foster a culture that celebrates recovery. And that, even that in and of itself, celebrating recovery. And I know that, people who have dealt with this will say you're never fully recovered, right? Every day's a battle. I understand that. Like no one's just fixed or cured or recovered. It's a process. But celebrating the process of recovery is one that would be beneficial for the White House and beneficial for the country, more importantly. Advise agencies on how to implement programs that integrate prevention, early intervention, treatment, recovery support, and reentry. Consult with states, local jurisdictions, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, the private sector, philanthropic entities on the best strategies to ensure more Americans receive the treatment they need, and celebrate individuals going through the recovery process. And RFK Jr., who was also there yesterday, who has dealt with addiction himself, as has his wife, noted that publicly and said that's in large part what this is about. That's what really the MAHA movement's about, too. Like people are, I don't get it, but whatever. People are mocking the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement, just because, once again, Trump or something. But what it's really about is not just doing things like restructuring what we eat and talking about eating healthy. It's just bringing those things to the forefront, right? Redoing, yes, the food pyramid, getting people talking about what's good for you, what's healthy, what's not, having the conversation. It doesn't change things overnight, but it gets the ball rolling in the right direction. And nothing about this is red or blue. It's red, white, and blue. And I just wish if there's anything that people could put their partisanship aside for, it would be this. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm at least going to bring it to you because, once again, the news cycle totally lost this thing yesterday. Barely touched it because, Minneapolis, because, Alex Preddy, because, we got protests here in Kansas City today. Well, Don Lemon's arrested. I mean, yeah, all those things matter. But you know what? Ask people today, what's a bigger impact in your life? Those people you love and care about dealing with their addiction crisis or Don Lemon spending a night in the can?